Hello and welcome to Raising Those Spirits. I'm Steve,
And I'm Sam,
and
as it
this
turns out.
is episode 30. You know what I've noticed?
What have you noticed?
We start every episode with me saying Steve and then you saying Sam, mainly because I'm the one who hits the record button and you don't know when we're ready to go.
It's
But
true, I don't.
in print, it's always the reverse. It's always Sam and Steve.
I think because I do a lot of the posting.
Well, even in the episode descriptions and stuff, when I write them out, it's just, it's a
Oh, that
balance.
is
It's a fun
that's
balance.
funny. Okay, I like that. I like that. We're both co-leads.
We both get top billing.
Yeah, we're both important in our own way.
We're at 30 episodes. It feels like that's such a low number.
I know. Well, you know what? That's not counting all of the
The prep work.
bonus. Well, it's not counting the bonus episodes
Oh, true.
because
Yeah, we're
it
well
doesn't happen
past.
as much any.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't happen as much anymore. But we used to digress a lot. I guess we've learned how to keep ourselves on task.
Which is great professionally, but bad for off week content.
Yeah, that's true. We have to start specifically producing mini episodes or something. Oh my god, that sounds like too much work.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Honestly, we can just finish this type of an episode and then do like a quick 5 minute.
Oh, like any other subject?
Yeah.
Oh, spoiler alert. That's a great idea.
Yeah,
We're
we'll
not going to do it this week because we just had that idea, but
yeah, we'll
we'll
flesh
do
that
that.
out later.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. Good idea. And that's the process.
That is the process. I don't remember the new process, even though it's not new at all. Do we do the drinks first, or do we do the spooky holiday first?
I think we do spooky holiday, then drinks, then main topic.
All right, we've only been doing this for at least a third of our episodes now.
Oh my god, that's true.
Yeah, it's insane. Uh, It's absolutely insane. All right, so this week I covered, and I'm gonna get this wrong because I forgot to go to YouTube and find out how it's pronounced.
Hmm.
Uh, Currifak. It is a Spanish festival. It takes place it is a traditional pyrotechnical display from the Catalonia region of Spain. It
Oh.
is an evolution of a medieval practice called the Bal de Diables. It started out as a medieval street theater, but was revived again in the 1980s and gained widespread popularity.
Okay.
Yeah, because for a while, like eventually the church does what it did and they co opted it, and then there was like a reformation and it went away for like 100 plus years, and then in the 80s they revived it. And it's back and it's going strong. It is a popular performance in which good and evil come head to head in what is described as such a spectacular way that it is not without risk for bystanders.
Ooh,
Korofak
that's
literally,
awesome.
yes, Korofak literally means fire run. It's in an open air performance, people dress up as devils and other monstrous creatures and arm themselves with pitchforks. They also set off fireworks in the crowd.
Oh my god.
There aren't a lot of injuries though because people know to expect this and they wear fire retardant clothing because those participating are expected to get as close as possible to the evil creatures and run with the fire. It's kind of like a spooky running with the bulls.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like running the bulls, but with fire.
Yes, from what I got, that is exactly what it is.
This should be better known. It's amazing.
I love it. I was reading this and I was like, why don't we know about this?
You
Each
know why? Americans should not know about this
Well, it's
because
also
we would try it and we would hurt ourselves.
it's only in one region of Spain, too, so it's pretty small. It would be like if Texas had like a weird spooky tradition.
Hmm.
But honestly, it's more like if like Rhode Island did size-wise. So each town has its own customs and traditions, and they vary in shape and size. So some of them, there's like planned fireworks in areas with like Flame and Pyrotechnics and others, they just give the performers a bunch of fireworks and they set them off throughout the crowd as they deem fit.
Hmm.
Some towns also have local monsters that reappear every year for that town's festival. And
That's
the biggest part of the festival, like the biggest showing, is in Barcelona.
okay. That makes sense.
And it takes place every September 24th there. So that is like a very the biggest festival is is the constant one. It's always September 24th. So by
So that
time
is this coming weekend, as of when this airs.
yes, you have time to catch a flight to Barcelona.
I'm
Although I
going.
don't recommend going to Barcelona because the Barcelona one is so big, there is no crowd participation. You have to
Oh,
sign up for it. If you go to one of the smaller towns or cities in the region, you can really get in there, though.
okay. Spain tourism next year. Okay, we're making a plan. Next year we will get to this because that sounds incredible.
My parents forbid me to run with the bulls, but they said nothing about running with the monsters.
Yeah, there's a loophole. There was a
Loophole.
loophole.
And if there's a monster that resembles a bull, win-win.
All right, so if you go and you run with a minotaur, it's totally fine.
Totally cool.
All right.
So
I
what
love it. This
I
is my favorite one so far.
yes, I when you assigned it to me, I was just like, oh, okay, we'll see how it goes because it was two on the 24th, and I think I openly stated I was like, if this one sucks, I'm gonna do the other one, and I was like, oh my God, this is the best. I'm so happy I got this one. Uh,
All right,
s-
can't wait till Saturday. Let's go burn some stuff.
let's go. Let's just do it in our towns. People won't know what's happening, but maybe it'll catch on. It got revived in the 80s. It could make it stateside. We could make this
That's
happen.
suburban Massachusetts, suburban New England.
I
A
mean,
couple of guys go to jail for setting fires.
fireworks are legal here, man.
True.
All right, what are you
Oh my
drinking?
gosh. What am I drinking? I am drinking an Embark Craft Cider Works apple pie cider. I picked it up because it's September. It is apple cider season. So I picked up a nice hard cider. I'm enjoying this. It's got all that nice apple pie flavor, a lot of cinnamon and nutmeg to it. So definitely recommend Embark Crafts apple pie cider.
Awesome. I love ciders. I can no longer drink them for health reasons, which is super disappointing because I really, really like ciders. But I did start a batch of apple pie moonshine and peach cobbler moonshine about a month
Oh
ago, and
yeah,
they will be fully matured come mid-October. So I'll be able to get into the festive flavors then.
nice.
And my drink is it's a Radler. So I don't that's
Mm,
it's actually something I had 2 nights ago. We went out to dinner and I mean I drink Radlers like the Sam Adams Radler and stuff is very good, but they actually had a Radler beer cocktail that I ordered.
okay.
It was a light lager, lemon juice, and or lemon or not sorry, the Radler is not lemonade. It is grapefruit juice, a light
Mhm.
lager, and they put in citrus vodka.
Okay.
And I've never had a Radler as a beer cocktail. I've always just had it as the beer with grapefruit. And I did not love it in beer cocktail form because I felt like the bubbles got diffused too much. I wanted that
Mm,
effervescence,
sure.
and a lot of that seemed to have gotten pushed out, which was a disappointment.
Too flat.
Too flat. If it's going to be a beer cocktail, I want to know it's a beer. Half the point
Yeah,
of the beer is the bubbles.
that's my favorite part of the beer. It's not a beer without the bubbles.
Did you ever see Young Einstein with Yahoo Serious?
God, yes, I have. Many years ago. Yeah, that was the one where he splits the beer at him, right?
Yeah, yeah, he figures out how to put the bubbles back into the beer. And, this Radler needed that. It needed the Yahoo Serious treatment. But that's a story for another day. Tonight, we're talking about Hocus Pocus.
Hocus frickin' Pocus.
Now,
Seems like one of the cornerstone movies for this podcast.
Absolutely. We've definitely referenced it a bunch. They just
Yeah.
filmed part two right in my neighborhood. And I actually hadn't seen Hocus Pocus since I was a kid. So it was a trip jumping back into it.
Wow. I feel like I watch Hocus Pocus probably every year at Halloween time. I feel like there are three movies that I always end up watching, which are Hocus Pocus, Beetlejuice, and Nightmare Before Christmas. I think probably every year I end up watching those three at some point.
Hmm.
And I've already watched Beetlejuice and Hocus Pocus now. So now all I only need to watch is Nightmare Before Christmas, which
Which,
is it's like I feel like that's always the last movie you watch at Halloween.
well, the
Kind of
thing is,
closes it out.
yeah, you close it out because then you're technically kind of entering into the holiday season. So it's a good bridge.
Yeah. So
Okay,
yeah,
so,
Hocus Pocus.
whew,
Where do we
yeah,
start with Hocus Pocus? Or where do you? Okay, so you hadn't watched this in years. How did you find it after picking it back up?
and my wife had never seen it.
That seems impossible.
She missed the 90s.
Where was she?
Her parents were like hippies.
Oh, so I'm like, I know she was there.
She was there, but like they didn't even have like cable.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so she missed most of the 90s. And my son was actually super into this. We let him stay up late to finish watching it.
Oh, that's nice of you. We
Um,
did not let my daughter watch it. We decided that it would be too scary. I don't think. I think we made the wrong call.
I
I think
think
I
you
would
did
watch it with
too.
her.
I think there's not a lot. There's a lot of spooky, but not a lot of scary.
Right, except for the one child murder at the beginning.
There,
And also, just like in general, they are attempting to murder children.
it does
That is the
start with
plot.
child murder. Like right out the gate, child murder.
Yeah, it's the first 5 minutes of the movie. They are, it's about a group of witches, and they eat children to take their youth, and they succeed in that at the beginning of the movie, which is messed up. That's pretty messed up.
Yeah, starts with them stealing a youth and just draining a child of all of their life.
I feel like we will not get that in Hocus Pocus 2. I think that there will not be. I don't think there'll be any dead kids in Hocus Pocus 2 at all. I'm making that assumption right now.
Oh man, I just totally blanked. There is a horror movie that I really like. Oh, it's The Blob. I just got the 1988 Blob
Sure,
with
remake.
yeah, the remake, which I love. But one
Well,
of the
also
reasons,
famously has a child death in it. The 1980s Blob is a great
and it's
creature
got
feature.
Kevin Dillon,
Oh my god, it does. I did
Matt
not realize that.
Dillon's less famous brother.
Good for Kevin Dillon. We're
Um,
not here to talk about the Blob.
Speaking of random famous people from that time
Tell me.
period,
Mhm.
what was Gary Marshall doing in this movie?
He must have. Okay, so yeah,
He's
Gary
not
Marshall's in this.
credited.
Penny Marshall's in it. He must have somehow. I he guarantee he knew the people who were making it because Gary Marshall and Penny Marshall, they
Worked
made so much stuff.
and they
They
yeah
made so much stuff.
they worked together a lot. They were so famous. And it was not like a cameo. They were in this movie for at least 4 minutes of screen time.
Oh yeah, they had a full scene.
They
No,
had a
no, I love Gary and Penny Marshall in this movie. That's one of my favorite parts of this movie.
I didn't know what he looked like by look, but Petra immediately was just like, "What the hell is Gary Mar? Did Gary Marshall direct this?" And I was like,
He
"No."
doesn't know you every time that I watch this movie, I'm like, oh, Gary Marshall's in this. Did Gary Marshall direct this? He did not. He did. He's just acting in it.
He didn't
But I mean,
produce in it. He literally just acted. He's not a writer, a producer. Like,
I think if we look up the pedigree of the film, we will almost certainly find that the people who made the film were probably directly connected to Gary Marshall in some way. 'Cause I mean, like
probably.
he was doing so much stuff. I mean, like not just in like the 90s, forever. I mean, he was directing and producing films pretty much right up until he died. It's just Penny Marshall too, his sister too. They're both heavily involved. I imagine he was probably just connected to everybody putting this movie together. Because you could pretty much cut that scene out. You don't need that scene in this movie to get that plot point across. But it's just like, oh, we've got Gary and Penny Marshall. We're putting them in this movie because they would have had to like that had to have been a full day of filming for that 4 minute scene.
Oh, absolutely. That was a whole day.
That was a whole day. Like they put a lot of effort into that, and it's great. I love that scene. I love Gary Marshall. I love Penny Marshall. So I think it's great. But
So, for everyone listening, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but he, on Halloween, is dressed up as the devil. So the witches
right.
mistake him for the devil. And it's just a fun little detraction. It's almost like they need to give the kids a head start to get away, so they have a good reason that these people aren't on their tail.
That's true. They do get kind of tripped up in that scene because they don't know what Halloween is apparently because they're witches. They've been gone for 300 years. Let's talk about the plot of this movie
Let's
because we
start from
haven't
the
even said what
beginning.
the plot of this movie.
My initial thought was that costuming and everything, production quality was really good for this. This is one of like
Mhm.
the last, in my opinion, for a while, live action Disney movies that they actually gave a budget to before just shifting everything over to like made for Disney Channel movies.
Yeah, and this was originally supposed to be a made for Disney Channel movie, and then I think they realized what they had and they upped it to being a theatrical release.
And although my first comment is there is a lot of fishnets and sheer for Pilgrim Times.
Oh yeah, like Sarah Jessica Parker's entire outfit,
Yeah,
which is great.
it is. Yeah, it's fantastic. But like
It's
all of
fantastic.
them, even Bette Midler has like fishnet, like those thing. They're like stocking, like the fishnet stockings, but they go up your arm and they wrap around one of your fingers, like the
Oh yeah,
armlets. And I'm
I don't
like,
think it was period
I
accurate.
don't think this is
Just
period accurate at
to
all.
Puritan doing it.
But
I love those costumes though. I think they're perfect witches. I feel
yes,
like everybody has since this movie has tried to live up to those witch costumes and come up short.
yes, because they were just so distinctly different, all three of them, and yet so appropriate and yet so out there.
Mhm.
So, starts off in Pilgrim times, 17th century Salem, where a trio of witch sisters murder a child by stealing her youth so they can be young again. And her older brother tries to stop them, and they turn him into a cat and curse him with immortality.
A lifelong fear of mine being trapped in a cat body, by the way.
So, my son wants to be a cat so badly. Uh, like he
Kids,
just
all kids go through a phase where they just would rather be a cat. My daughter is also deep into that right now.
he was drinking from the cat bowl the other day, and I was like, "That's for cats," and he was just like, "I kitty," and he like dove back into it, and I was just like, so we watched this, and the kid gets turned into a cat, and my son got so excited by the prospect that this could actually happen to him.
Wait, you never told me this was a real possibility, Dad. I can be a cat.
Basically, yeah. 110%. It was just like, so I can be a kitty. And it was like, no, just stop it.
I mean, I've like plenty of other parents I've talked to have have had that same lament. Like, why does my kid want to be a cat?
And like, we have two cats that have always been a part of his life and like have always just been like on him since we brought him home. They're very close. And they he doesn't have siblings since COVID, so he just plays with the cats a lot. So like for him, I understand it. Like they are basically his siblings, but I don't love it. I don't love that he now really is cemented in getting. He's just looking for a witch to
He
turn.
doesn't know the difference between the movie and real life, and as far as he's concerned, if he meets Matt Midler, he gets to be a cat.
Yeah, if they have to do reshoots or something in this area before they release part two, I just can't take him outside because if he sees Witch Bette Midler, it's over.
I mean, it'd be over for me too. I would just give up my whole life to Witch Bette Midler. I love Bette Midler. I will say that loud and proud. I love Bette Midler. I saw her live in Hello Dolly on Broadway a few years ago. It was the best time I ever had in the theater.
Really?
One of the best. Yeah, it was her and David Hyde Pierce were the leads, and it was incredible. She's so good. This movie
Okay.
really did it. This movie really super imprinted on me. I love Bette Midler.
I did not remember that she was grandma. Oh, it's the new Adams Family. She's grandma. Got it.
Oh, in the
Uh,
new Adams Family.
yeah, and
Oh, I haven't watched any of the ones with
the animated
Oscar Isaac.
ones.
I haven't watched any of those.
Yeah, I heard bad things.
I am excited about the Wednesday show
You
on
know,
Netflix.
the trailer lost me like immediately, and then it ripped me back in after like the first 20 seconds.
Okay,
So I'm excited. I don't want to be, but I am.
we gotta give it a chance.
Yeah, we'll give it a chance. Maybe we'll do an episode about
Nothing
it.
for nothing else, so we can talk about the show.
Exactly. We've got to mine that. All right, so uh Thackeray, the older brother, gets turned into a cat, and then we flash forward to modern times where we meet Max, who is a laid back California kid whose family has moved him to Salem, Massachusetts. And you can tell because A, that is such an 80s and 90s trope.
Happened in every 80s and 90s movie.
And
So many of them.
so many, like, Stranger Things, Max and Billy are from California, I think specifically because of that trope. Like,
Yeah,
they.
no.
They could have moved to town from anywhere, but they're from California.
Yeah, it's like
Like,
I'm from LA. We have surfboards and more types of boards. Here I am on the East Coast. You guys are weird. I hate I hate that character in every movie
did
that character is in. All right, so Max runs afoul of the bullies who make fun of him for being from California.
and steal his new shoes.
What a bunch of jerks.
Because they have first and foremost, they don't bully him. They ask him for pot. They directly ask him in this children's movie for some bud.
Oh, they totally do. That's true.
Yeah, I was like, did they just ask him for some bud to smoke? The 90s were a wild time for kids' movies.
They really were. I was so much. That's what I'm saying. Like the new Hocus Pocus is going to be way toned down.
Yeah, because my next note is so in the next scene, he's told he has to take his little sister Danny, played by Thora Birch, out trick or treating. And he does not want to do it. And he's like, "You're 8. Go by yourself." And that's just such an 80s, 90s line. Like, yeah, you're 8. You're fine. You're in a town you've never been to before. Just go trick or treating. Be home by 9.
Yeah. Again, another thing I feel very, very much in Halloween movies is the older sibling needs to take the younger sibling trick or treating and totally wants to bail on it.
That was even some of the stories in some of like the scary story books we've read. Bruce Cobell's Book of Nightmares. That was one of the stories.
That's right. It's such, I mean, like a major trope.
It's a
But
big
again, this
trope.
is a kids movie. This movie was not trying to break any new ground.
Although they did do a really good job building up and writing a good, believable sibling relationship.
Oh yeah, I thought they had a lot of good sibling chemistry together.
Yeah, they did a really good job, A, with the chemistry, and B, with just like the interactions and the writing. It's like a very like believable, not a TV sibling relationship.
Yeah, that they were good. The kids in this movie are all very good. Which the kid who plays Max, he didn't really go on to do a lot. There's his
But
love interest, Allison.
yeah,
Uh,
Allison went on to do a lot. Thora Birch went on to do a lot. She does mainly indie stuff now though because her dad kind of torched her career.
I think she was on Walking Dead,
She was.
so she's fine.
Oh yeah, no, no, she's doing fine. It's just sad that she's kind of doing projects she wants versus,
Yeah, she
But
could have a comeback. We're waiting for Thora Birch to come back.
so speaking of the love interest, they of course end up at her house
Like you do.
after he embarrasses himself in front of her at school, and they just walk in to this house.
It seemed like there was like a something going
There was
on.
a party
It was
there,
a
but they
party.
didn't knock on the door or anything. They didn't like trick or treat. They were like, "Yeah, sure, these people are having a party. Clearly, we'll go in and just start helping ourselves."
It's the 90s. You
And
could
it
do
is
that.
such a rich white person party theme.
Oh yeah.
Like her
No, there was
parents
some money at that party.
definitely voted for Trump.
You got the money for white.
And Thora Birchman, her character Danny just torches her brother at any chance she gets throughout this
She really does.
entire
She said some
movie.
Thor Birch's character really said some inappropriate things to
Everyone.
Allison. Well,
Allison
just
to the bullies to literally anyone that would listen.
so yeah, there's the scene when they're at the I think it's when they're at the party where oh yeah, my brother likes you. He says you have really nice yabos. I'm like, what the f?
Yeah, I like your outfit. I couldn't wear it because I don't have big yahoos. You have big yahoos. That's what my brother calls them. He likes your yahoos. I'm just like, oh my fucking god, this is so cringe.
I was like, not okay. Oh my, yeah. And Allison like laughs at it and she thinks it's cute. I'm like, this is not okay.
This is not
This is
okay.
me as a parent watching this movie. I was like, that was not okay.
And
That the whole interaction was incredibly inappropriate.
And at one point, after like the fifth time she has just burned his life down, he yells at her and she just like runs off crying because he was mean. And I'm like, you have torched his reputation across town. Like,
Yeah, Thor Birch was the bully sibling in this
you
movie.
are absolutely
Absolutely.
a bully. Um, so there is a prophecy that if you
Like you do.
if a virgin lights the black flame candle on Halloween when there's a full moon, the witches will come back. And everyone in town believes this, but not Max, because he's cool and from
Because he's from
California.
LA.
He's from LA.
He's a surfer guy. He doesn't believe in witches. Crazy people in Salem, Massachusetts.
But Allison, his love interest, does. So he's like, "We'll make a believer out of me. Let's go." So they do the horror movie thing where they go to the spooky witch's house on
Ooh,
Halloween when there's a full moon.
let's pause. Pause one moment because I just had a realization.
Uh huh.
Okay. Allison's family. They have a lot of money, right?
A lot of freaking money, yeah. The kids, in
And
fact, stop outside of the house and go, "Rich people house."
yeah, her mom used to run the Sanderson Sister Museum. That's how Allison knows about that they can get in and they can go sneak in.
Well,
Her
yeah, it's
mom used to
probably a
run the museum.
non-profit. She's just like rich women love to volunteer at like non-profits and stuff.
It is out of business. It's abandoned. They go in, it's covered in dust. They're like able to steal stuff. Like he steals a cigarette lighter. How it like that's terrible. That she was able to just abandon this project. This very privileged white woman. It's like we don't care about the witches anymore, and I'm just gonna leave it to rot to dust.
I think it's just like I've done my watch. No one else is picking this up. That doesn't mean I'm forced to keep carrying this torch. I mean, that's why a lot of volunteer organizations go under. Just lack
She
of people
ran.
to
She
step up.
ran that. She ran that museum into the ground. It's really sad.
I believe it.
Really
Probably
sad.
laundered all the money. That's how they have such a nice house.
It was all a freaking scam. That's not even a fan theory. That has to be the truth. We're
They're
gonna
the
call
real
her in here.
villains.
They're the villains. So they sneak in.
They sneak in, and Max immediately finds a lighter, which I have in my notes, and I was immediately proven wrong that that's going to be the Chekhov's gun of this movie. I was just like, he's like, oh, look, a lighter. And I was like, clearly that's the gun that's been introduced in Act 1. And it's gonna be like what they used to light the witches on fire or something. And no, no, he just immediately lights the candle. And he is a virgin, so the witches come back. And I like that they broke that trope and a boy can be the virgin. We kind of talked about this in the Monster
The
Squad
Monster Squad
episode,
episode.
but it's nice to see. But they
Hmm.
harp on the fact that he is a virgin throughout the rest of the movie.
And what was he? He's supposed to be like 14, 15
I
years
think
old.
he's 16. I think him and
Leave
Allison
him
are
alone.
like 16-year-olds. And yeah, it's like this movie bullies the fuck out of him, including his little sister Danny, about him being a virgin. Um,
Yeah,
again, a child.
yeah, he would have been about 16 when the movie was shot. Totally, you know, like, come on,
Yeah.
leave him alone.
Although,
A hun- It's so it's that should be the standard. I don't. I mean, like, I'm not gonna tell people how to live their lives. Just everybody use condoms. Um, but yes, don't leave him alone for being a virgin at 16. That's
he
usual.
he does initially offer his love interest the lighter. He's like, "You want to do the honors?" And she's like, "Nah, I'm good, thanks." And my wife was immediately like, "Not a virgin."
No, she is not.
She is
Also fine.
also fine,
It's
but I think it
also
was
fine.
funny. Honestly, she should have been the one to do it because she was afraid of bringing the witches back. And if not virgin lights it, problem solved. She could have just been like, "Oh, I guess it was a myth." He did.
Which it would have been fine.
So
Everybody live their lives. Yeah, and that brings the witches right back.
witches immediately come back and immediately capture them. And the little sister seems to be pulling. She's dressed as a witch for Halloween, and it seems like for a second she's gonna be like, "I too am a witch," and then immediately abandons the plan and is just like, "Help!"
Well, she kept that subterfuge going as long as she could. She did a good job. She was doing the best as she could. But if they were actual adult witches and she is a child.
So Max is able to use modern technology to convince the witches that he is also a wizard, and buy them enough time to escape. And they meet up with Thackeray the cat, who is still alive due to his curse, and can now talk because the witches are back, because he couldn't seem to talk before the witches came back.
We were watching, so my wife made that same comment, like, "Oh, why couldn't he talk at the beginning of the movie when he was first into a cat?" And my explanation is he was just turned into a cat. He was newly a cat. He hadn't figured out how to talk in a human voice as a cat yet. Because he was probably like really thrown off by being a cat. He's now at 300 years of being a cat. He's probably mastered it.
Spoiler alert, but jumping ahead,
Mhm.
when Thackeray dies at the end, he doesn't talk, and he dies after the witches die. He only meows from that point on until he's dead. Just a comment that I think it might just be that he can only talk when they're alive.
Okay, I'll accept this fan theory.
Um, I like yours too, but I did notice he does not talk after they die.
That's true. Because he's dying at that point.
He
Because he's been
is
like thrown in a rock.
dying because he's immortal, but he like dies and then comes back, and he was mortally wounded, and they died before he could heal. Whatever. Uh, broke the curse. He gets a happy ending. We'll get there.
Here, wait. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about Zachary the cat for a second because something I think is really funny, or really strange, or I don't know. It's just something I always notice. The actor who plays him as a human before he gets turned into a cat, who is I think he's on NCIS. He's on one of the like forensic shows now. He's still acting. He's still working
Oh
regularly.
my god!
But
I didn't realize that was Thackeray. He's
What's his name? I'm looking it up right now.
Timothy McGee on NCIS. He is the author slash hacker.
Okay.
His name is Sean Murray, but oh my God, I did not realize he was
It's
Timothy
not his.
McGee.
It's not his voice. They use a voice actor, Jason Marsden, probably best known as Max from the Disney Afternoon Goof Troop show. But he does a lot of work. He's a regularly working voice actor. He does a ton of stuff. So it's just there's scenes where he is a human talking with a completely different human's voice. And then of course because he's mostly a cat for the movie, so you want to have a good voice actor to do the cat part. But it's just always really like um not off-putting. Off-putting's the wrong word, but it's just like always a little off kilter because it's like I know that this is not what this person sounds like because he's gone on to have a successful career.
Yeah, yeah, he's got a very successful career. He's been in 421 episodes of NCIS, not including all the spin-offs.
Oh my god, that show just keeps going.
Yeah.
So good for him. Like I mean, like really, like probably like not the most work out of anybody from this movie, but definitely some of the most success out of anybody else who was
He
in this movie.
he is fully in syndication. He can retire.
Oh yeah, he doesn't need to work anymore. He chooses to. Because he'll
Oh.
get residuals from that forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Man, I
that's
thought he looked
never
kind
going off television.
I thought he kind of looked familiar, but I saw this when I was a kid, so I just wrote it off as that. But wow. So other young famous people are in this movie as well. So they make it to the graveyard because in this movie, graveyards, they kind of flip the narrative, and graveyards are holy hallowed ground. So the witches can't step foot on it, so they can hide in a graveyard.
Hmm.
But what they do is raise a zombie to and command him to chase them down. And that zombie is young Doug Jones.
Who I absolutely love. I was just telling you how much Star Trek I've been watching. And Doug Jones is in one of the new Star Trek series, and I was like, I love you, Doug Jones. I'm so glad you're in this movie.
Yes, he is. I think he's one of the only returning people in Hocus Pocus 2 as well.
Him and the
The
Sanderson
witches.
sisters.
Yeah, none of the kids are coming back. I know Thora Birch was asked to come back and she turned it down.
I think it was a. I read it was a scheduling issue, probably because she's been doing Walking Dead and all those other things.
Yeah, she keeps
That's too
busy.
bad. I would have liked for her to come back.
But it was very exciting to see Doug Jones, who is really channeling Tim Burton. This whole movie kind of was like ripping off Tim Burton's whole thing at the time, but
Yeah,
Doug Jones specifically looks like every character Johnny Depp played up to that point combined into one person.
absolutely, absolutely. But
So,
he's a great actor. Everybody should look up Doug Jones.
oh, he's
He's
so
pretty
good
much every creature in.
in
He's in
everything.
every Guillermo del Toro movie. He does so much creature effect work, and he is brilliant at it. I love Doug Jones.
Yeah, he's the Pale Man in Pan's Labyrinth. He's Abe Sapien in the Hellboy movies. You're right. He's in everything that requires. Okay, who's the guy who plays Gollum?
That's Andy Serkis.
If it's not Andy Serkis doing
It's
it, like
probably Doug Jones.
it's probably Doug Jones. If they're like, "Hey, we're not going to CGI this. We're going to do practicals," Doug Jones gets hired.
Yeah, that's what I would say. To what Andy Serkis is to CGI character work, Doug Jones is to practical character work.
Yeah, and he's just the best. But
Mac
he's
Tonight from the old McDonald's commercials.
oh my god.
Like he's been doing this a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a lot older than I thought he was.
Was he in the
Cuz
'60s?
yeah, he's in his 60s. He was when he played Billy, he was 33. So,
Great actor, very tall.
Very tall. Yeah, he plays. I think he's in the Conjuring movies as like the Thin Man or whatever.
Crooked Man or
The
something.
Crooked Man. Yeah, he was supposed to get a spin-off movie for that, and it,
I'm
it
glad
never
that did not
happened.
happen. That's fine. We've had it. There's enough Conjuring movies. We don't need another one. He has plenty of other work.
Yeah, he's not hurting for work.
Yeah, it's fine. We don't need. He's six
S-
foot three. He's not as tall as you think. I guess he's just lanky.
He's lanky, and they like to give him prosthetics to elongate his limbs, and that's another thing. He has long, skinny limbs. He looks
Yeah,
very alien.
which is why he's so good on frickin' Star Trek.
So the kids get away again.
We're at like the 15-minute mark of this movie.
We are. The kids finally get away again, and the witches end up on a bus with the world's most problematic bus driver.
Another character who would not be in the modern retelling of this movie.
He's basically like, "What can I get you, ladies?" And they're like, "We desire children." And he's like, "I mean, it might take me a try or two, but yeah, I can make that happen for you."
Standards and practices, I think, at Disney have changed.
Yeah, like holy crap. And then he proceeds to just continue to be problematic every moment he's on screen.
Yeah, he's no good.
So we finally get away from the bus driver, and he drops them at Gary Marshall's house, which we have discussed.
Right. Great scene. Great Gary Marshall scene. Everyone loves Gary Marshall. My
Then,
favorite thing. My favorite thing of that scene. One of the things that trips them up so that they can't keep chasing our trio of heroes is they leave their brooms outside, and then their brooms are immediately stolen by three girls who are dressed up as them.
yes,
And they have the sound effect of those girls flying away.
those
We
kids,
never see.
yeah,
Yeah, we don't know what happens to them. They fly off with the brooms. They, here's my guess, or here's
they're
what I
dead.
presume. They die. They
Yeah,
have
they
to die because they
clearly
don't know how to
died.
fly brooms.
They went
Well,
really high, really fast, and panicked and fell off and died.
it's the first thing you would do. They are dead. Those three little girls grabbed the brooms, went for a flight, and then immediately crashed and
Crashed
died.
into a tree, got hit by a car going across the road, whatever you want to say, they're dead.
They're dead.
So then the kids go to town hall because there's a huge party for all the adults at town hall. And they find their parents who just instead of helping are immediately like, "Hey, everyone's dunking on Max in this movie, right?" And proceed to just continue to mess up his life in front of everyone again.
They are not good parents.
They are not, but honestly, this is the cat's fault at this point because they tell the crazy story about the witches. And does the cat talk and back them up at all? No, they just sound insane. At any point, Thackeray could have just been like, "Yes, it's true. I've been here for 300 years." And they would have been like, "Holy crap, that cat can talk." But that didn't happen.
Oh, that's a good point.
They
Zachary really could have proven a lot of stuff. Maybe only children can hear him?
He doesn't try.
Oh, that's true. It's not. Yeah, that's fair. Here's a question. In real life, are there ever town-sponsored dance
No.
parties?
I mean, that was such a 90s party, even.
I feel
Um,
like that still shows up in a lot of movies as if it's like a regular thing.
okay, so I will say two things. One, yes. And it was a huge trope back then
Was.
as well. But two, if any town in the United States was going to do a giant Halloween bash, it would be
Oh, it would
Salem,
be Salem,
Massachusetts.
Massachusetts. Anyway, big
So
dance party.
the witches show up at the dance party, and Bette Midler sings a song and puts a spell on all the parents to not care about any of the shenanigans the witches are pulling. They're just going to party all night, and thus they do, and all the children out of the town are left parentless.
Good plan.
And then it's just kind of like a movie for a while. Like they kind of like start going through the motions. Like the kids come up with a plan to kill the witches and don't even
Yeah.
have like a montage. They just like time jump Scooby Doo style where the plan has been set and the witches are there and walking into the Scooby Doo esque trap. Except, unlike Scooby Doo, they decide to burn the witches alive in a kiln.
Which is pretty horrific.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, you
they
gotta do what you gotta do. It's witches, but like, wow, what a way to kill people.
and they walk out high-fiving and giggling. They are not affected by and they because they sit there and watch. They make sure these witches die. They watch them burn and are not affected by this at all, even the 8-year-old.
No, they're pretty okay with killing at this point.
Yeah. So the witches die and the kids go home to celebrate, but the witches they can't die
Un
today.
undie.
They
They kind of just
undie.
like put themselves back together.
I think they have until sunrise. I think like that's the rule. So like they just
Okay, so
can't.
they're immortal until sunrise.
They're
That's
immortal
fair.
until sunrise, and but they will die at sunrise unless they do this ritual, which is why they're chasing the kids. We left that out. So,
Right.
and they don't
I feel like it
realize
was implied.
all the other kids in town are kids because they're dressed up for Halloween and they think they're hobgoblins.
Oh yeah, that was kind of dumb. That's a
Yes,
dumb.
it's really dumb. I know this is kind of where the movie starts to lull. The only two things that happen in my notes after this point are seriously, we get it, he's a virgin. They're really pushing this narrative, and also Max's life sucks. Like, everyone just dunks on him. And so they go home, they do their victory lap, they decide to adopt Thackeray, and he's going to be their cat now. And they pull a mummy and decide to read from the book. Out of kindness, they want to try and figure out how to turn Thackeray back into a person. But
Smart
by
move. They should start absolutely doing black magic.
yeah,
Good
um,
call, kid.
so they immediately notify the witches where they are and get found, and they kidnap Thora Birch, and then they've got to do the big rescue scene and the fight in the graveyard where the witches have brooms and they can't touch the ground and it's an aerial assault and
And imagine if they had just thought like, oh, we should figure out if we can turn him back to a human. But you know what? It's really late. Let's take it. Let's go to bed. We'll figure this out after at breakfast. They would have not had to deal with the entire final quarter of the movie.
yeah, if they had just and the thing is they do go to sleep. They just wake up before sunrise. They wake up a little after 5 a.m. and I looked it up. Sunrise in November 1st in Salem, Massachusetts is like 7:14 in the morning.
Yeah, it's pretty late. It's a very dark in Massachusetts that time of year.
So,
Very dark.
unfortunately, even though it seems like the next day, they're not in the clear. And they have a big sunrise fight. Bette Midler's turned to stone because she touches the hollowed ground. The other two sisters get poofed away.
Yeah, the sun
And,
comes. They're able to hold off the monsters long enough. Zachary gets cat smashed.
and
Um,
yeah.
yeah, they're able to kill the witches. Finally, this is the third time the witches have died in this movie. There's a lot of witch death.
Also, I feel like Max should have been like older because Bette Midler definitely steals a good amount of his life force before dying.
Maybe he gets it back. I always assume that he gets it back after she dies.
Maybe?
Otherwise, he should have been at least like 30 at that point, because
Yeah, I
he
was
does
thinking
suck a
that.
lot of his life force.
Like, it would be cool if Max was just a different actor at that point.
Oh yeah, like oh man, I
Cause,
really I'm
yeah,
old now. It's ruined my life.
cause she doesn't get poofed like the other two. She gets turned to stone, so that energy is never actually fully released from her. I think that's how she's gonna come back in the next one.
Yeah, I mean like they'll do some hand wavium or be like, oh, there was another spell. Yeah, it's gonna be easy enough to resurrect them for the next movie.
It does end on that cliffhanger where their magic book is sentient, and you do see it open its magical eye at the end and start looking around, waiting patiently for them. So I'm
Was
sure
it supposed to be the Necronomicon from Evil Dead? Like it felt very much like the
it
Necronomicon.
was very much a nod. It was bound in human flesh,
Right. That had to have been it had to have been purposefully based on the Necronomicon from Evil Dead. It was too similar. Could not have been. I
and
think that Hocus Pocus and Evil Dead are a shared universe.
I like it. I
Yeah,
think that makes sense.
it has to be what's happening. That's a crossover I would absolutely watch.
Oh yeah, can you imagine? I would like Ash versus the Sanders sisters.
That'd be so good.
Because they can't
Oh
die for 24 hours. He just has to hold them off.
my god! And he could just like keep like doing all of his stuff, like getting with a chainsaw, getting with a shotgun, getting them with rape trees. That wouldn't be okay. We don't want that. Oh my god. Evil Dead versus Hocus Pocus
I want the
is my dream
comic.
movie.
The Evil
That'd
Dead
be great.
the Evil Dead comic has crossed over with a bunch of things already. They did Ash versus Freddy versus Jason. They've done Ash versus Marvel Zombies. They've done Ash versus Darkman. Just do Ash versus Hocus Pocus witches.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have the next Evil Dead movie is about to come out. Like that's coming out sometime soon. It's already shot.
But he's not in it.
No, he produced. I think he was. I think he produced. Bruce Campbell produced it, but he's not in it
So overall, my kid loved it. I will continue to show this to my kid as he gets older. I
because
think
he wants to be a cat.
he wants to be a cat, but I think it holds up. I think it's good. I think it's very good spooky vibes, not too much scary. It's got a lot of childhood cringe. Really, really grasp how cringe, because being a child's cringy, and they really
Yeah,
captured that.
they did.
You didn't have a lot of the normal Disney camp. You had like a very realistic. It's so awkward being this age.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of stuff in it that, like, again, we're not going to see in the sequel. Just like probably not going to see child murder in the new movie. I feel like they won't do that. I feel like they won't have children making very sexually explicit comments to other children. They probably will have less focus on virginity. Just some guesses. These are my predictions for Hocus Pocus 2. I hope it's good. I hope Hocus Pocus 2 is good because I really truly love Hocus Pocus.
It's coming out in like two
A couple of weeks.
weeks.
By the time this airs, I think it's going to be just a couple of days away.
Yeah,
Hold
it's
on.
airing September 30th, 2022. So it'll be airing 10 days after this episode drops.
Okay, that's great.
Honestly, after this episode drops, that could be our next episode that we record on.
Oh, okay. So that we'll put out an episode about Hocus Pocus 2 if it drops on September 30th. It'll be out in October. Good idea.
If
We
it
should do
drops
that.
on the 30th, we'll record it on the 4th and look into our process, and then we'll drop it on the 18th.
All
It'll be
right.
our
Be
last
here.
episode before Halloween.
Oh, that's perfect. Good. Good. Everybody get a little preview of what's going to be happening next month.
And since you're getting a preview, we're going to be doing Halloween Town next week because that is like the big Halloween movie rival to Hocus Pocus. There seems to be two camps.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's Halloween Town people. I've never seen Halloween Town.
Neither have I. The closest I did is last year when we did all the Halloween trailers. I covered
Right.
Halloween Town.
Right. And I feel like Halloween Town. I have a niece who's like 10 years younger than me. And I feel like Halloween Town was a thing that she was into from what she's told me.
I
Um,
I should
so that
save
makes sense.
this for the next episode, but I will tease and maybe you can remind me to
Mhm.
mention it. Halloween Town originally had an incredibly dark ending.
Really?
Yeah. The lead actress just actually talked about it. Someone asked her. They were like, "Hey, I heard it originally had like a really dark ending." And she was like, "Oh yeah," and she talks about it. And I was reading the article, and I was like, "That is a really dark ending."
Oh, I can't wait to hear about that. Was this Debbie Reynolds was saying this, or who was?
No, no, no. It was the lead actress who plays Debbie Reynolds' granddaughter in at least the first three movies. I don't know if she's in the fourth one,
Oh,
but
okay.
she plays Marnie. The actress's name is Kimberly J. Brown, and someone added her. And yeah, she actually talked about it.
All right. Oh, I'm looking forward to learning about that. I'm looking forward to seeing Halloween Town for the first time.
Yes, I'm sure it's gonna be awful, but
Oh, probably.
I mean the production quality. This only came out 5 years after Hocus Pocus, and the production quality is so low. Just even looking at the stills and everything, this was like not shot on film. This was shot on video. Like,
Well, and Halloween Town was made for TV. That did not.
yes,
Yeah, that didn't get a theatrical release.
this is clearly a 90s made for TV movie.
But yeah, I'm watching a piece of the trailer right now, and it looks very cheap.
Yeah, it looks incredibly cheap. Can't wait to talk about the camp.
Okay,
I predict I will hate this.
we should. That's a good that we're gonna watch it. Yeah, there's a lot of decent Disney Channel Halloween stuff. I'm gonna put in a plug for I think it's called Unwrapped,
The new one or the original?
the new one. So
Okay.
that's the is it Under Wraps?
Under wraps. Hold
Under
on.
Wraps. So Under Wraps,
I can check the Plex.
Under Wraps came out in 21. There's a sequel already coming out this year, and that's about a little kid who befriends a mummy.
Originally,
Uh,
it's a remake of the 1997 movie of the same name. Came out a year before Halloween Town. It was their Halloween movie the year before.
oh, so I think next year we're gonna have to do like the Under Wraps series
I'm in.
for our Halloween episodes. Okay, so a little preview. That's you're gonna have to hold on for a year before we do these, unless we
Or,
get bored in
I
the
was going to
middle of
say,
next
unless we
summer.
run out of content.
Unless we run out of content, very easy to happen, and we want to have 3 episodes to do. My daughter loves these movies. She loves the movie. She's been talking nonstop about Under Wraps 2 coming out very soon. She keeps telling me about the plot of it from what she sees in commercials, and she seems pretty excited.
Hey,
But
that's
we're not
great.
going to do that this coming week. We're talking about Halloween Town next week. All right.
All right. This has been
Well,
episode
this has been a good
30.
one.
Yeah, I
Episode
enjoyed
30.
this one.
Hocus Pocus, one of my favorites. Well, everybody, if you want to talk to us about Hocus Pocus, please do. You can do that on our social medias, which are at RTSpiritsPod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Perfect. We will see you next week in Dad's Digress because we definitely got off topic. I,
Yes.
I'm Steve.
I'm Sam.
Enjoy. Thanks for listening.
Happy Halloween!